do I need to do the inner outer thigh machines, like, that good girl, bad girl machine, or skip them and do RDLs, squats, etc.? This is an interesting topic, and I think it highlights a false dichotomy within the industry that, especially when you and I were coming up in the industry, people were like, never do those machines, they're stupid, da-da-da-da. What do you think? Do you think they're worth it? Do you think they're not worth it? What are your thoughts?
I think they're worth it based on personal experience and based on going basically my entire life not touching that machine, because I can do a compound movement that is going to allow me to hit these same muscle groups, and it's more effective, more efficient. I can load it better. I don't need these. I think that's probably more correct than a group of people who never did any kind of hinging pattern, any kind of RDL, any kind of free weight squatting, only did machines and swore by the good girl, bad girl. Like, I think only doing free weight compounds is more right. But what I have found is the combination of free weights and machines using all of the equipment we have available to us is best. And specifically, because the question is about the adductor abduction machine, I found an insane imbalance that I have with adduction. Like, I can more or less rack that machine, to use the Dean Bambaka calf raise terminology, where he would rack the calf raise in high school and not do any other movements. I was very proud of that. The external rotation, the glute work, the abduction, no problem. I always assumed it was a groin, playing hockey and then, playing like flag football in college multiple times. Could have been an adductor, but I assumed it was my groin. When I recently tried the adduction, so the good girl, so when you're squeezing your thighs in together on that machine, I could barely do any weight. Like, legitimately, like 3 plates, and not 3 plates as in 315, 3 plates, like 30 pounds on the stack.
Yeah.
And over the course of a number of weeks was able to just add 10 or 20 pounds per week, but improve my range and strength on that movement pattern. Felt really good. So I got a little off track, but both free weights plus machines, optimal.
I think that was perfectly on track. I completely agree. I think one of the greatest errors in modern day strength training and when I say modern day, I sort of mean when you and I were coming up. I think it's less like it now. I think this type of stuff is more acceptable now. But when you and I were coming up, we were always taught compounds train everything. You don't need to do anything else. If you're doing compounds, you're good. Squats, deadlifts, presses, you don't need isolations. I think it's one of the greatest harms that the industry has done in modern times is making it seem like compounds is all you need and isolation is worthless and a waste of time. It infuriates me. And it's so wrong. It's wrong to think that number one, like, you're training the muscles in a completely different format. You're training them through different ranges of motions. You're training them through different loading patterns, through different vectors. Your adductors are training through one plane of motion and one loading pattern and one vector when you do squats and deadlifts. It's a completely different way of training them when you do them on the adductor abductor machine. It's completely different. And I think it's incredibly helpful, incredibly beneficial. The good news is you don't need that machine. For example, if you want to train your adductors, you could do a Copenhagen plank as another form of training your adductors. You could do a pulsing Copenhagen plank if you want to train through that range of motion as it adducts and abducts. This is one of the reasons I've really enjoyed doing the middle split work, because I'm training my adductors in that capacity. There are so many ways to train them and isolate them. And especially coming from your background as a hockey player, knowing these groin issues, these adductor issues, that would diminish significantly if people actually strengthened those muscles in that isolated capacity. I think it's incredibly helpful and important, both from an athletic performance perspective as well as an aesthetic perspective. I think it's and an injury prevention perspective from all of it. It encompasses everything. I think it's unbelievably important. And anyone who understands injuries will also know that overuse injuries will happen if you're just only training one movement pattern and you're neglecting others. So it's better to train through a variety of movement patterns and load vectors so that you, I don't like to use the term necessarily bulletproof, but this way you give yourself an opportunity to be strong throughout all ranges of motion and all movement patterns rather than just in one sagittal plane. It's super helpful. So yeah, I love that machine. I literally, for a while, was thinking about getting it for my home gym, and I was like, I don't think I can justify that space yet. Like, I'll just do Copenhagen planks for the time being.
Yeah, that would be a crazy investment for a home gym because it's not multi-use, right? You can only do 2 exercises on it. It's huge and it's expensive.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
Yeah, and if you have a limited space, it's just not even on the top. It shouldn't be in like the top 100 pieces of equipment you buy first.